off the whole time, so. Good morning. Today is July 17th. This is a meeting of the Criminal Justice Public Safety Committee. I'm Senator Susan DeChambeau, Senate Chair, and we will introduce ourselves. I will turn it over to my co-chair, Representative Warren.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good morning, everyone. I'm Charlotte Warren, and I represent Hollowell, Manchester, and West Gardner in the House.
Good morning. I'm Janice Cooper. I represent Yarmouth, Long Island, and Chesapeake Island.
Mike Carpenter, State Senate District 2, Presque Isle, Patton.
Good morning. I'm Ann Carney. I represent House District 30, which is part of Cape Elizabeth.
Good morning. My name is Victoria Morales, and I represent House District 33 in South Portland.
Good morning. My name is Penny Beebe Center. I represent House District 93, the town of Owl's Head in the city of Rockland.
We do have a quorum, and so we will begin. I do want to thank the members who are here currently. I believe there are some on Zoom. Like to recognize Representative Patrick Corey. Patrick, would you introduce yourself, please?
Good morning. My name is Patrick Corey. I represent House District 25 and pleased to be here this morning.
Thank you. I think that's it for who is in there. I also want to thank you all for Wednesday. Today's another good day of work we have to do. I want to mention to the public that thanks to Representative Warren, who arranged for us to sit in on the MIAC advisory board meeting yesterday on Zoom. Some of us were there, and also some members of the judiciary. It was a very informative meeting, and I thank Representative Warren for arranging that. We have also Jane Overton is our policy analyst, and Ms. Sedgwick, Jeanette Sedgwick also, and they're on Zoom. The process today, as this is a work session, we have two bills before us, LD 2151 and LD 1756. And Ms. Overton will give us a review, and we will then discuss. Ms. Overton, thank you.
Hi, I should start by saying I just got an email from Representative Reckett looking for the Zoom link, which Deb and I both just sent her, so I would expect her to join us soon. The first item on the list is LD 1756, an act to improve public safety through coordinated re-entry of prisoners into the community. It's sponsored by Representative Talbot Ross. She is on the Zoom call, and so also, and thank you to her and to representatives of the Department of Corrections who are also here. In your packet for today, committee members have it on their desks in paper and also got it electronically, and it is posted on the Criminal Justice Committee website. This bill was heard June 3rd, 2019. It was passed, it went to the governor's office, it was held by the governor. In January 2020, it was recalled from the governor's desk, And in February, it was recommitted to the Criminal Justice Committee. And when it is recommitted, it's stripped of any amendments. However, in the packet, the amendment from last year is there. So you need to, when you're looking at it, if you see the amendment, the committee amendment A, this says on the top of it, amendment adopted in 2019. So that is at this point no longer in play. The plain bill is before you, and further on in the packet, there is an amendment. It is a marked up copy of the bill, and it is amendment proposed by Representative Talbot Ross, was put together back in March. And it is, it's fairly short, and she is here, and my guess is that she'd like to explain it to you.
Representative Corey, you have a question?
Yes, so I'm going through the sort of past sort of history of the bill and everything, and I noticed that it was reported out ought to pass as amended. So number one, I'm kind of wondering from Jane if this had unanimous sort of approval from the committee in terms of showing any divided reports on the Maine legislature's website. It doesn't show any divided reports, so I'm kind of wondering if that changed. Do you know what I mean? Once it was recommitted, you know, to the legislature after it was taken from the governor's desk. Number one, was there any divided reports, Jane?
I believe, I'm looking in my file. I believe last year it was unanimous, but let me look. Deb Fay's on the call. Deb's the clerk. Deb, do you have a copy of the vote sheet?
It's not in the master file that I got from the Legislative Info Office.
I don't have any record of a split vote last year, but right now it's before you, plain stripped.
So I'm also noticing that in the legislature that there were no roll calls on this, so it received unanimous consent before going onto the governor's desk. Is that correct?
As far as I know, yes.
So for what reason did the governor not sign the bill? Was there a letter that came from the governor that said why she didn't sign the bill?
I didn't get a letter. Perhaps Representative Talbot Ross.
Representative Corey is okay. We'll let the sponsor respond to that. I believe she had conversation with the governor. All right? Okay.
Sure.
I'll get back to you if you have a question on that.
Maybe we could hear from Marianne Turkowski on that as well, since she's on the call. Thank you.
Okay. Let me begin with Marianne Turkowski, since she's the liaison. Marianne, would you care to answer that?
Sure. Marianne Turkowski, Governor's Office. I do not have the letter in front of me. I think Representative Rachel Talbot Ross can speak directly about this, as she had the conversations directly with the governor. So I defer to her.
Thank you. Representative Talbot Ross, could you enlighten us, please?
Certainly. Good morning. Rachel Talbot Ross. I represent House District 40, which is part of Portland. And I thank you for allowing me to be with you today. The original bill did come out of committee unanimous. It changed the qualifications in the bill so that the current law is you have to have served 2/3 of your time before you can be eligible with 18 months remaining on your sentence. The bill that was passed unanimously altered that time frame so that you would only need to serve half of your time. And the
Excuse me, Representative Talbot Ross, I think the direct question from Representative Corey was the conversation you may have had and why it is back here. If you could speak on that, and then we'll get into the gist of the bill.
Thank you, Senator. I was trying to explain why the governor didn't sign the bill, and it was because of this calculation of time. And in conversation, so I needed to explain the calculation, which was you had to serve 2/3. And the governor believes that that's the best amount of time, and did not agree with changing the bill, Representative Corey, from 2/3 to 1/2 time. And the governor did not agree with increasing the time remaining on your sentence from 18 months to 36 months. In talking with the governor's office and looking at the rationale that the governor had, we absolutely agreed with the governor, and did have very good conversation with her office about the need to keep the 2/3 current law in place. And I definitely agree. So it was around the calculation of time was really the gist of it, Representative Corey. And we came to an understanding about why it needed to remain in place. Again, and I thank the governor's office because I think it's a better bill.
You all set, Representative Corey? Representative Corey?
Yeah, I mean, I'm of the belief that the legislature did good work the last time around. So I'll be supporting sort of my original vote on this bill. If the governor didn't like the work the legislature did, the governor certainly could have vetoed the bill. So I'll be supporting our original work on this committee. Thank you.
I will now turn it over to Representative Talbot Ross. She touched upon 4 areas that after the discussion with the governor has offered, and I have the biggest spider on my desk right now. Yes, I know. So there are 4 areas, and correct me if I'm wrong on that one, that you made some adjustments and that you are comfortable with. And if you would share that to the committee, that would enlighten us about the whole bill. Thank you.
Certainly. So the original bill, again, that passed, moved the time frame from having served 2/3 of your time to 1/2 of your time. It also moved the remaining balance of your time from 18 months to 36 months. We added an advisory committee to the original bill that would be made up of folks who had lived experience and stakeholders, along with the Department of Correction. And then we also expanded the housing options for folks when they are released to include recovery houses. So the original bill, again, went from 2/3 to 1/2, 18 months to 36 months, added an advisory committee, and expanded the housing options. And that's the bill that passed. The bill before you keeps the 2/3 in place, changes the time frame where you would have remaining on your sentence 24 months, so it moves it from 18 to 24. It removes the advisory committee, and it retains the housing options. And that's the bill before you now, which was negotiated with the governor's office.
Thank you, Representative Talbot Ross. Members here, I'll add to this. The way I wrote it down, I found it interesting. 4 areas, one of them remained after her conversation with the governor. Representative Talbot Ross in the original bill wanted, suggested that prisoners would serve half their time. She has accepted to leave it currently at 2/3 the time. So that stays the same. It was that you applied when you had 18 months left on your sentence. Representative Talbot Ross's original bill was 36 months, and they agreed to 24 months. It removes the committee that she suggested to oversee that. And it expands the places where prisoners may be released to. Originally, it was like family or close relatives. It now will include recovery houses or other areas where they would need to go in the community. So when you look at it, that is a very good compromise. You stay the same, you change it, you get rid of it, and you expand it. Those were 4 areas, so that was the compromise with the governor. Anyone wants more clarification of that, I'm sure Representative Talbot Ross can answer that. Representative Warren.
I'm sorry, I don't need clarification, but we have a member that's trying to get on, Lois Reckitt, and I just want to quickly ask our folks in IT if you can reach out to her and try to help her join us. I've received a text message. Thank you.
Representative Bibi Center.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm curious why the committee was removed.
Representative Talbot Ross, could you elaborate on removing the committee?
So thank you for the question, Representative Bibi Center. I cannot give too much more information than what I've already given. My understanding is the governor did not like the committee, and we just came to an impasse with that, if you will, for a while. Maybe the representative from the governor's office can elaborate a little bit more on why the governor did not want the advisory committee on there. I don't know if someone from the Department of Corrections could also elaborate on that. I just will add that the Department of Corrections, as you may recall, came in with support for the original bill. I'm sorry that I don't have more information about the advisory committee.
Brian? Is anybody willing to respond to that? If not, I will go to Representative Morales, who has a question.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Representative Talbot Ross. I'm looking back at your original testimony, Representative Talbot Ross, and looking at the numbers of total population, male and female, from January to April of 2019 who were able to access this important program. And I'm wondering through these discussions and this compromise, was there any talk about, because the numbers are fairly low of folks who were able to access it, actually very, very low considering our population. And I'm wondering what kind of conversations were had about capacity to have to allow more folks access to this program, and whether any benchmarks were discussed around that.
The reason why we moved the remaining time was to try to encourage more folks to apply for this program. This is a program that is not easy to qualify for, as you can imagine. There are a number of other pieces of criteria that you need in order to qualify. You have to be at minimum security level. There cannot have had any disciplinary issues, and so there's a number of other things that go into qualifying for SCCP. I had originally had the 36-month mark there in order to encourage more men and women to apply for SCCP. Right now, there's about 230. I think I got numbers from Dr. Thornell this morning, but I see that the department is here. They could probably elaborate on the men and women, the numbers that are eligible. But this is a program that incentivizes good behavior and to reintegrate back into the community based on that. So you're still under supervision from the department when you're on this program, but it is this is to incentivize good behavior. And I don't know if the department wants to elaborate. There's not much more to say about it. It's we're trying to help folks who are doing well and can qualify get back home.
Thank you very much, Representative. I would very much like to hear from the department about sort of what they'll do to get more folks on this program and increase that eligibility if that's possible.
As Representative Talbot Ross was speaking, for the general public, supervised community confinement is still a period of their sentence. It's not released from their sentence. But I want Mr. Thornell, would you care to elaborate on what was said?
Yes, and good morning, Ryan Thornell, Deputy Commissioner for the Department of Corrections. Thank you for having me. Yes, I can speak to the discussion around population numbers and the use of the program and the numbers that were cited from 2019, and then also give an update on numbers in 2020 year to date. And Representative Morales is exactly right. The program, the numbers utilized, the way the program was utilized in 2019 is much different than what we've done in 2020. And we've expanded the use of the program beginning in January of this year. And so when you look at 2019, where we had approximately 70 individuals take advantage of the program across the year, and you compare it to what we've already done in 2020, where we've had almost 120 individuals take advantage of the program, you can see that we're moving in a direction of expansion, better usage, and all of the other things that Representative Talbot Ross has spoken about. I will add to the Representative Talbot Ross's comments that in addition to the different criteria she mentioned, one of the struggles that we continue to have with this program, as you all are aware of, is housing. And so while we do have high numbers of clients eligible for supervised community confinement, upwards of 220 to 230 within the timeframes Representative Talbot Ross is speaking of, finding and securing suitable housing for those individuals is extremely difficult. And that's often one of the things that gets in the way of a successful supervised community confinement application packet. And so I mentioned that because it is a factor that we assist with, we support with, and we push for, but it's also something that we're at the mercy of housing options in the community. One of the things that has been a benefit during COVID-19, where we've been able to increase numbers more so than even in January and February, is we have had more families come forward and allow for clients to release to their households that previously might not have allowed that. But during COVID-19, it seems to have made those things more available, more accepting for family members to do so. So I just wanted to mention that point as well. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Could I follow up with one point? Thank you. Thank you.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Senator. And I'm sorry, I know I talk a lot. Thank you for that. I really appreciate that. Dr. Thornell, I agree about that housing piece, and I think coordination and collaboration is so important with Maine Housing. And I sent an email last week to to Commissioner Liberty and to Dan Brennan, who's the director of Maine Housing, around the lack of housing vouchers for justice-involved folks. And there's great opportunity in that area. for crafting and creating vouchers that are specifically designed for justice-involved folks. And I would hope that you all would work together with Department of Corrections and Maine Housing to make that happen as soon as possible. Thank you.
Representative Warren.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just have a quick follow-up question. Have we received the information we requested about the demographics of the over 100 people that have been released on SCCP? I'm looking for male, female. I'm looking for the racial collection of folks.
Mr. Thornell, can you answer that?
Yes, I can provide the male and female breakdown for 2020 year to date. I'm not in receipt specifically of a request for the demographic breakdown, so I'm not sure when that was sent or the status of that. But I can tell you that year to date, the breakdown is roughly 60% male, 40% female. So of those 120 that we've released year to date, that gives you a percentage breakdown. I can provide you with specific numbers of all of those breakdowns and the demographics when I receive that request, but that's what I know to date. And I can also tell you right now we have 53 individuals on supervised community confinement in the community that are active, so they haven't finished their sentence or transitioned out into some other status. And of those 53, 33 of them are males and 20 of them are females. And that's the information I have readily accessible right now, but I can certainly provide additional information when I receive that request.
Representative Warren.
Thank you, Dr. Thornell. Do you need that request in writing, or may I ask you verbally for that information?
No, you can ask me verbally. I can certainly take the notes down and then provide a follow-up.
Thank you, Dr. Thornell. I would like information about the folks who have been released on SCCP, including race demographics. Thank you.
Any other questions from committee members? If not, Representative Cooper.
Thank you, Senator. Is it fair to say that the COVID-19 pandemic has encouraged the Department of Corrections to reduce the population to make those facilities safer, and that this program is a way to do it?
Yes, if I may, I think COVID-19 has presented us with a whole host of challenges. I don't think that it specifically has pushed us in a direction to shrink our population utilizing SCCP, but I think it provided us with another avenue for a direction we were already heading. So supervised community confinement has been something we have spoken about, at length, especially with Representative Talbot Ross over the last year plus, in ways of better expansion of the program, better utilization of it. And when you look at numbers, really from last summer up until now, our use of the program continued to grow, and our approach to the program continued to evolve to allow better use of it. And so COVID-19 really just inserted a whole nother variable into it that allowed us to accelerate it even more. And it allowed us to look at the population in different ways, identify different factors, and then, as I mentioned previously, see different connections for housing opportunities in the community that weren't previously there, specifically with families and other sponsors that came forward. And a secondary benefit of that, obviously, is that our population does go down. It allows for greater social distancing in our facilities and allows us to house people in manners that allow for 6 feet separation and still access to certain services.
If there are no questions, I would entertain a motion. Representative Morales,
I move ought to pass.
as, do we say as amended? No, is that? I'm not sure.
As represented by Representative Talbot Ross. I'm not sure if that's an as amended ought to pass.
That's a good question for Jane. Jane, we're just want to make sure our terminology is correct. It is an amended bill, so it should be an ought to pass as amended.
Yes, it's ought to
Okay.
pass as amended, and I think it's the fourth page for the end of the packet is a marked up copy of the amendment being presented by Rachel Talbot Ross today.
So I move
Thank
ought
you,
to
Jane.
pass as amended.
All right. Is there a second to that? Second by Representative Cooper. Motion was made by Representative Morales. Anybody need an explanation? We all know what we got. Representative Warren.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'd like to take a 5-minute break, and also our clerk is coming down to have us vote, but I also see Representative Corey has a question.
Representative Corey, excuse me.
Great. So obviously I won't be caucusing with anybody today. So I'm just going to say our goal was to move the needle in the right direction. We found bipartisan support to do so, and everyone agreed the last time around. Our original vote it will save the criminal justice system money. It'll return people to the community more quickly and reduces trauma and harm for those incarcerated. I'm going to support the bill sponsors and this committee's original work. I'm going to stay committed to supporting criminal justice reform. So thank you.
We shall take a 5-minute break. Thank you. We're all back in order here. So we have a motion and a second on the floor. The motion is to pass LD 1756 as amended and as we've heard today. We have our clerk here who will read. So the motion was made by Representative Morales, seconded by Representative Cooper.
Representative Cooper.
Yes.
Representative Cooper, yes. Representative Bibi Center.
Yes.
Representative Bibi Center, yes. Representative Charlotte Warren.
Yes.
Representative Warren, yes. Senator DeChambeau.
Yes.
Senator DeChambeau, yes. Representative Carney.
Yes.
Representative Carney, yes. Representative Morales.
Yes.
Representative Morales, yes.
Yeah. The vote is 6, but we did have a majority of when we opened, we had a quorum. And other members have till, I'm not sure when, to register their vote.
24 hours.
24 hours. So right now, it is 6-0 passed. Representative Corey.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm going to be calling in my vote, and I'm going to be calling in an ought to pass as amended using the original language in the original committee report. What I'm hoping is that Jane can prepare that for me so that when I call into the clerk's office, I can, I'm guessing it's an ought to pass as amended with the original committee report that went to the legislature last session. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Polly. All right. Yes, Ms. Overton.
I'm sorry, Senator, but you need a quorum in order to vote. And I believe Senator Carpenter is in the building, or was, and he may be in the Judiciary Committee meeting.
Okay.
Get him.
I'll take care of it right now. I'm writing to Craig Nail to have him see if we can get Senator Carpenter down. Let's take another 5 minutes.
I want to thank Ms. Overton. It is Rule 306, a quorum is not only 7 members, a quorum must be present to start a meeting or to take a vote. Senator Carpenter is with us. He is meeting in his committee. He was here when we started, and I will repeat, Senator Carpenter, this is a motion to approve LD 1756 as amended, and you have that before you. Do you wish to vote? Where is, oh, our clerk's not here. How would you register your vote?
I see our Clerk Fay up there, and I think she heard the vote and she recorded it.
So the vote is 7. No one opposed. And when I say no one's opposed, no one is opposed in this room. Members on Zoom can register their vote within 24 hours.
Can I, excuse me, Senator, I want to acknowledge that I heard from Representative Corey a request for me to put together an amendment for him, but he would be voting ought to pass as amended, and that will be his amendment will be last year's version. I just wanted to make sure that he knew I had heard him.
Yes, that's correct, Jane. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Overton.
I've got my cell phone. You can
Yeah.
text me and just tell me.
You want me to take care of that?
Yeah, sure. We'll have to get Senator Carpenter back for when we vote on another matter. Thank you for being patient. The next item on the agenda is LD 51. And the title of that is an act to implement the recommendations of the Juvenile Justice System Assessment and Reinvestment Task Force. Ms. Overton?
Yes, this is a bill that was sponsored by Representative Warren. It came out of the Justice Reinvestment Act work and the task force that was formed during that. The bill was heard on March 3rd, having been advertised in its LR form. It was LR 3255. The bill was, when it was printed, it was exactly the way it was in the LR form. The bill was scheduled for work session on March 11th, and that was rescheduled until the 18th. The 18th was after adjournment, so that work session did not happen. If the committee supports the bill contains some dates and appropriation sections which should be examined because of the delay in final action. And that delay in final action delays the effective date. In section 2, there are some benchmarks for decreasing the population of youth who are detained or in the custody of the Department of Corrections. The benchmarks are tied to dates which may need to be changed. In section 8, there is an appropriation from the general fund and that might also need to be changed. I did have a conversation with Representative Brennan on this bill. I believe he has talked to some of you, and I'm sure he has also talked to the staff at the Department of Corrections. I don't have any direction from him about a proposed amendment to present to you. That's all I have. Thank you.
Okay. Is Representative Warren?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I am texting with Representative Brennan right now. He's trying to get on the Zoom link. So if we could just give him 5 minutes to join us. I've just resent him the link. Would that be all right with you, Madam Chair? Okay.
Yes.
Let's just take a quick 5 minutes till we see him.
Okay, so now you should be okay. Can you folks hear me?
Yes.
Yes, loud and clear.
Okay, I think he's
Welcome.
set now.
Welcome, Representative Brennan.
Well, sorry, it was quite a circuitous process to get here, but thank you. I apologize. I was sitting here watching and I thought I was okay, but apparently I wasn't.
Where is Mr. Brennan? He moved right now. Okay, gotcha.
Right.
Jane went through that, right? Okay. Representative Brennan, our analysts went through the bill for us, and we were waiting for you. If you wish, I could do it either way. You can expand on that, or I can ask if any members have questions to you directly. Whatever is your preference, Representative Brennan.
Well, thank you, Senator, and thank you, Representative Warren, members of the committee, for hearing the bill today. Obviously, we've had a lot of previous discussion about this with the committee, and I appreciate the opportunity to hopefully move this bill along. I'm more than happy to answer any questions that members of the committee have, and I do have at least 2 suggested amendments and 1 potential question. So I would leave it to you, Senator. If you'd like me to answer questions from people on the committee, I'd be more than happy to do that. Or if you want me to offer my 2 suggestions at this point, I would also be able to do that.
I think we would prefer that you present to us what are some of your suggestions so we could make note of that.
Okay, thank you, Senator. So the first one in section 3 of the bill, it talks about the continuance of work of the Juvenile Justice Task Force. And as you know, over the last year, you've served on the task force that is comprised of almost 40 different people, and that we would like that work to continue. The language in the bill talks about the task force continuing its work and advising the Department of Corrections. What I would suggest is that we simply change the language to give the authority to the task force, to the Juvenile Justice Advisory Group, and instruct the Juvenile Justice Advisory Group to establish a task force to continue the work that has been started and work in an advisory capacity to the department as well as the Juvenile Justice Advisory Group. So rather than having the Juvenile Justice Task Force be a freestanding task force and continuing in its capacity, it would come under the auspices of the Juvenile Justice Advisory Group. The second question, the second issue is actually in the first section in the bill. It strikes out the language in current law that says that no child can be held at Long Creek because there's not a sufficient placement for them in the community, either with their family or in a community-based organization or community-based services. And as you remember, or you might remember, at the public hearing that was held several months ago, local district attorneys were uncomfortable with immediately striking that language from law because they felt that there weren't enough community alternative placements available. What I would suggest is that we do strike that language, keep that in there, but we make the effective date for that language January of 2021. And that would give both the department and community-based organizations 6 months to try to develop those alternatives. Lastly, and again, this is part of the unknown that we don't know at this point, but the bill does have an emergency preamble on it, and that would require a 2/3 vote. And I'm not sure at this point whether an emergency preamble is necessary. But also, if the committee does vote to support the bill and it goes to the Appropriations Committee, we can talk about what to do with the emergency preamble at that point. So those are my two suggestions substantively in terms of the bill. And then the third one is just really a question of what to do with the preamble.
I just want to ask you, I missed where you referenced developing alternatives and the date change. Where is that located in the bill? Section 1.
Representative Brennan, you're muted again. You're muted.
I'm sorry, it's section 1, number 2.
Oh, I see it now. Thank you. Representative Warren?
And just for clarification's sake, what you're proposing is that instead of us taking that out today, in the view that we're looking at, or the piece of paper we're looking at, that we would write it, or Jane would write it, such that that number 2 disappears as of January 2021.
That is correct, Representative Warren.
Thank you.
January 1 or January?
2021.
Okay. Members have question of Representative Brennan? Representative Morales?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Representative Brennan, for this great work. It really was an honor to serve with you on this task force, and an honor to serve with Senator DeChambeau, Representative Warren, Representative Corey, and to work so hard on these goals. And I thank the department as well for all the work they put in there. I want to ask specifically about Section 3 and moving the sort of the organization that would work with the department as from the task force to the JJAG. And are you saying that we would just, instead of the language here, we would insert the JJAG for the task force?
No.
And then keep everything else the same? Is that how you see that?
What we would do is instruct the JJAG to establish a task force that would work to continue the work of the task force that we've had for the last year. And really the big change would be that it would come under the auspices of the JJAG as opposed to being a freestanding task force. And so that both the committee and the Department of Corrections would be able to look to and hold the JJAG accountable for establishing the task force and continuing the work. And I do believe that the JJAG has the financial resources to provide the administrative support for the continuance of the task force. I've spoken to Ned Chester, who's the chair of the JJAG, and other JJAG members, and they would welcome this opportunity.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that. I have one more question about Section 1. Is that okay if I ask that? Okay. Going back to Section 1 and the language around care, I would very much support moving that to January 2021. And I think the department is doing great work with community members to create the community regional care teams, of which I'm on Region 1, working towards finding housing and the services that that young people need. And I think we're doing great work in that area. So I want to keep that section in definitely, but I agree that moving it to 2021, January 2021 is appropriate.
Well,
thank you.
Thank you, Representative, and thank you for your work with the regional teams. Those have clearly made a difference and allowed, in the beginning of the year, there were almost 50 youth at Long Creek, and now we're down to 30, 31. So those regional efforts really have made a difference.
Thank you.
Representative Cooper.
Thank you, Madam Chair. At a previous meeting since we adjourned, Commissioner Liberty told us that the population at Long Creek had been reduced by something like 40%. And they
That's
only
correct.
had about 60 kids there to begin with. So it's a very small population right now. So I'm wondering if you had considered including in your bill the closure of Long Creek and the sale of the property, which would offset the, at least, the fiscal note of this bill.
Well, thank you, Representative Cooper. And I guess the first part, the short answer is that we've looked at a number of different options. You're right. As I mentioned at the beginning of the year, there were close to 50 youth at Long Creek, and now they're at 30, 31. So that's almost a 40% reduction over that time period. I think if you look at the other parts of the bill, particularly parts that have to do with in Section 5 that talk about identifying locations and sites for secure residential treatment programs. Those are really the key to allowing us to make the transition to repurpose Long Creek. And I believe that if we meet the targets that we're talking about over the next year, and that we're able to identify 2, if not 3 sites for these residential creation, these residential placements programs, that within 4 months, we will be able to be in a position to talk about repurposing Long Creek.
Thank you.
I'd like to follow up a little on that. I see possibly 4, one in Cumberland, one in Penobscot. What are some of the discussions about those young people, the teens are there, in rural areas? How do we address that?
Well, if you look at, Senator, thank you for the question. And if you look at, let me see, the appropriations in Section 6, it specifically talks about providing services to rural parts of the state, and that using a portion of the 3.5 million directed at rural programming for youth involved in the juvenile justice system and those parts of the state. So I think that we simultaneously want to look at extending programs and those services to rural youth. And at the same time, when you look at the provision in Section 5, it talks about looking at 2 to 4 sites across the state, not all located in highly populous areas, but also in those parts of the state that would be able to serve rural youth. So I think it's one, immediately trying to expand community-based services to rural youth. And then when we're looking at these residential placements, we want to look across the state to make sure there's appropriate geographic distribution.
And I just want to make a comment that I didn't before when you mentioned Section 3 and the addition of hooking up with JJAG. I truly support that. That is a win-win for both of you. We should have one voice and learn from each other. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions? I'm sorry, Representative Corey, I forget to look up there. Go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So I certainly support a lot of what we're doing in this bill after having said on that task force. One concern I have, at least at this time, given sort of the circumstances that we have sort of surrounding COVID and everything else, and, the idea that we're going to, somehow be able to reinvest, the value of Long Creek, into these, facilities across the state, which I certainly, believe that youth should be closer to their families when they're, incarcerated and everything else. One concern I have is just, is that going to add, a fiscal note to this, and what's that fiscal note look like? How is that coming together? And that may be a better question for Jane, but has OFPR looked at this amendment yet and figured out kind of what we're looking at there? I think that the last thing that any of us want is some huge fiscal note, especially at this time sitting on this bill. Jane, do we have a note from OFPR?
I have to say, I can't remember if they looked at any of the other pieces of the bill, sections 1 through 7, but perhaps Colin O'Neill could address that. But I would remind you that section 8 has a price tag of 3.5 million written right into the bill.
Representative Corey, if I could answer that as best and defer to Colin O'Neill after this. But clearly in the bill, as Jane just pointed out, there's 3.5 direct appropriation at this point for community-based treatment. And what the bill calls for is the department to come back to your committee next year with recommendations for how to move to those residential programs. And including in those recommendations would be a fiscal note and a discussion about how to take current money that we have within the Department of Corrections in Long Creek and transition that those resources to the community. So if the world were a perfect place and everything worked out perfectly, we'd be able to make that transition somewhat seamlessly in terms of finances. But that's an open question that I think the department would provide more information to the committee next year.
Representative Corey, do you wish to ask a question?
Yeah, so one concern I'm going to have with this, and I'm going to say I have this concern because I have, Maine Correctional Center is in my district in Wyndham. One big concern that we've been dealing with, and I don't know if a bill is still to come in front of us from the Department of Corrections about moving women from MCC to Long Creek based on sort of programming and budget shortfalls that we've run into with MCC. If our goal is to use this money in order to, or the sale of Long Creek, which I've heard people say, in order to fund, this piece, I couldn't support that because we want to move people from sort of one asset to another. So, we're going to have to find a good solution, number one, for the women, but number two, we're going to have to then find a way to, fund sort of, I'm guessing, in additional facilities for the youth. So that's kind of where I'm at on that piece. Thank you.
Mr. O'Neill, do you wish to add to any of that?
Good morning, everyone. I'm Colin O'Neill. I'm the Associate Commissioner for the Department of Corrections, and thank you for having me this morning. I'm not sure, begging the pardon of Representative Corey, I know that he put out a question regarding kind of a fiscal note, but I'm not really quite sure what the question was, and if there's anything that you want to comment after Representative Brennan's comments regarding the fiscal note to that piece of it. So So I guess it's a long way of saying, what was the question again?
Was that for me?
Yes.
Oh, my question was, in order to, build those other, 4 facilities or create those other 4 facilities, would we have to shutter and sell Long Creek, when what we've been talking about sort of on the other side of that is, potentially, moving the women to Long Creek in order to have better programming for them and to alleviate bed space within sort of the MCC project that's fallen under or way over budget.
So I guess I don't want to really speculate on that, because I think it's, there's a lot of moving parts to that. I think, so I think the only comment I can make is that kind of what we're doing now, which is to continue like we have been for many years now, is to continue to look at ways to reduce our reliance on secure confinement by continuing to invest in community-based programming. And so that's where we would continue to go. And I don't know, and I don't want to speculate on what fiscal issues that may bring as far as we move forward and continue to move forward on that. So I guess that's how I'd answer that.
Representative Warren.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Mr. O'Neill, for being here. Maybe I'm misremembering something, but didn't we have this conversation at a juvenile justice task force meeting at the juvenile center back in Augusta? And you talked about the money that you had in your budget and that you were investing in these sites. Particularly, you have the money for the one for the girls. So I think that that's probably the clearer answer to Representative Corey's question, is that you have this money in your budget.
Right, and I think you can see the breakdown of our budget as I sent you that was sent to you either last evening or early this morning, as far as the breakdown on the community-based programs that we've been investing in over the years. So that is currently what we were spending on in our budget.
Any other questions? Representative Brennan, I heard you mentioned about developing alternatives and also hooking up with JJAG rather than a whole task force. I thought there was some discussion, however, in section 2, the benchmarks as to population and somewhat of a formula. Is that still remaining as is?
Thank you, Senator, for the question. Clearly, there have been discussions with a number of different people and with the administration about benchmarks. I also had a discussion with Jane about changing some of the dates of those benchmarks. But in reviewing the dates, I think the dates still kind of match up okay, given what we were talking about in March. At this point, there still may be some further discussion about the benchmarks in terms of the percentages, but at this particular point, those benchmarks are reflective of discussions that I've had with the department in terms of what would be achievable over the next 3 years. But those benchmarks are going to be subject to review by the committee every year, and they're also going to be subject to having the financial resources and developing those placements in the community to achieve those benchmarks.
So we're going to leave it that way, because I think now there are about 31 residents at Long Creek or thereabout. So between now, the way it is written, between now and July of 2021, that should go down to 23 or thereabouts, or about 8. Am I not reading this right?
No, that's correct. And your math is pretty good. That it would be 25% of 31. And that would be roughly 8. But again, given the circumstances with the virus and given other factors that come into play, I mean, I think that number is very realistic to meet the next year.
So the goal is by July of 2023, Long Creek should be closed.
Well, I think the short answer to that is yes. That based on these benchmarks and based on bringing the residential programs online, I would say with some certainty within the next 24 months, Long Creek could be empty. And it would be obviously up to this committee as well as the department to decide what the future of the building would look like at that point.
If everybody's ready, if someone wants to make a motion, including what we just discussed.
Madam Chair,
Yes,
I'd like to ask for a 5-minute break.
we shall have a 5-minute break. Thank you.